Good evening once again, everyone. Hell's Unicorn. And it looks like I'm going to be doing another talk about the TSA. I thought I had actually heard the last of this story because I thought within the 4 months since the last video that I did on this topic that everyone would have simply fallen into line and decided to go along with this nonsense, just like everybody falls into line and goes along with every other abuse that this government perpetuates against either us or against people outside of our borders. But in some respects, I'm actually a bit pleased because the issue has been brought back up here again on YouTube thanks to the testimony of former Miss USA 2003, Susie Castillo, who I believe is currently a spokeswoman for Neutrogena, I don't know. I never buy that stuff, so I don't know much about it. I do remember hearing something about her being a VJ on MTV. I forget which particular show it was for, but I never really watched MTV much after the mid-90s, so whatever. But anyway, she went to the airport. She's a frequent flyer, and she got the treatment from the TSA. And I don't think I need to describe to everybody what that treatment is. Let's just suffice to say it's something that is usually reserved for people in prison, and usually the amount of pattage that's done with these pat-downs is usually reserved for closeted homosexual guards at prisons who want to get a little action but can't outright rape the prisoners without getting fired. That's about the analogy that I would put forth with so far as the TSA and their practices are concerned. What prompted this particular video was not the fact that this happened and not the fact that Miss Castillo made a big deal out of it, which she is perfectly within her right to do. She was sexually assaulted. I don't give a shit what the gender was of the person who did it. If it is not for some sort of medical necessity, or if it is not done by the express consent of the person that it's being done to without any objection whatsoever, it's sexual assault. Learn it and live it. What actually prompted this video was most of the asinine, idiotic, moronic, brain-dead, numbskulled, retarded comments that have been left on a lot of these videos. And it makes you wonder just how many 12 to 15-year-olds there actually are here on YouTube, or how many adults there are with minds that are developed about that far. I've heard just about every idiotic justification that I can think of for what the TSA does here on YouTube, which is pathetic, considering that this is supposedly the bastion of dissenting political opinions. This is where the people come to voice their dissent against the tyranny that has infected this country. No, this is a place of conformity just like any other. There are actual resistors, but they are always the minority, and sadly, they don't have the will to truly and fully stand up whenever they're wronged. They stand up to a point, they raise up a little bit, but then they sit back down. There's no crusaders in this era currently, save people like Ron Paul, other people within the liberty movement that want to see this bullshit stopped. But to tell you the truth, the total number of people that are actually willing to go into airport security and to shut down an airport over this, it's just there's not enough of them. There are not enough people to actually stop this. And when you look at the intelligence level of the people that are affirming the TSA's right to do this stuff, it's very disheartening. We have everything from people just throwing childish insults and mocking this woman, to people that make such rationalizing statements as they're doing this to prevent another 9/11. It is really disheartening to think that all it takes to get people to fall into line and to grab the ankles and to take it and say, "Please, sir, may I have another," is for 3,000 people to die in a single incident 10 years ago. A whole decade and people are still not over this stuff. I have always been sort of on the fence regarding 9/11 truth. I mean, I've gone a bit back and forth, a little bit one direction, a little bit other direction. I've always been skeptical of the government's official story, but I've always been equally skeptical of most of the opposing theories. I don't think there's enough information about what happened, and I think that's mostly the case because the government has destroyed most of the relevant information. But it's very tempting to go on to all of the copied videos of Susie Castillo's testimony and just to shout at the top of my lungs, 9/11 was an inside job. Because that's the only way that you break that argument. When you affirm that 9/11 happened, you are affirming the delusion that these people are suffering under, which is that somehow giving up every single liberty that we have, every single freedom, is going to make us safer. There is a lot to be said about the moral decline of this country, and that's another thing that constantly comes up with these commenters. Oh, it was only her vagina. Oh, it was only 4 little grabs. It's not like she fingered her. Good Lord. Is this how depraved and perverted people have gotten? I mean, it's one thing to veg out in front of the TV and watch garbage like Jersey Shore and to think that that's the way that people are supposed to behave. It's quite another to make excuses for the police just falling a couple steps short of raping somebody. Entirely different thing. It's one thing to be loose and to be disloyal. It's quite another to be broken, tamed, put down, made to grovel. And that's what these people are. I have no respect for these people. And by consequence, I don't really have much respect for this country anymore the way it is. Can't do it. How can you respect people that cower in fear at the thought of a once-in-a-blue-moon plane being blown up, and yet by the same token are not alarmed by the alarming statistics on our highways due to drunk driving or other vehicular-related deaths? And all of this entirely being the result of how the magi who run the mainstream media present the facts to people. That's the thing that I think is really missing from the entire discourse in politics today. The basic truth that facts can be manipulated. Facts can be made to mislead people when they are presented in a certain fashion, and when certain facts are included while others are excluded, that people can be given the wrong take on reality. And it's some doing convincing all but the entire country that was conceived in liberty that servitude and slavery to the state is the preferred route. It's tempting. It's very tempting for me to go out right now and just say, hurrah, hurrah, 9/11 was an inside job. Because that's the one thing that actually changes the debate. Sure, you get called a conspiracy kook for saying it. Sure, you get called a nut job. But at least you're not getting lectured about how 9/11 changed anything anymore. Ever since, basically. You have changed the debate. I'm not saying that I believe one way or another, that that's the way it is. Same thing with the birth certificate with Obama. I don't know. I have my doubts. Those doubts alone, in most people's minds, put me in the conspiratorial camp. I don't care. That's the point I've gotten to. I don't really care. The thing that really sticks out, though, amongst all of these people that are justifying all of this stuff, people that can justify anything, can justify children age 3, 4 years old, being molested by strange men because they wear a uniform. When they react to people that are crying foul, they always do so with anger, with sarcasm, with ridicule, because they're ruled by fear. I can't live my life that way. I cannot be ruled by fear. I won't be ruled by fear. That might be one of the reasons why I was never stopped by the TSA, because I'm not afraid of them. They can do what they like to me. My outrage isn't really what they may or may not do to me when I go through those checkpoints. I can tell you for a fact I'm not going through that porno machine and subjecting myself to low-level radiation and x-rays. No. I'll take the hand raping, and I'll get over it probably a couple minutes afterward. I'll think of fluffy clouds and clear meadows, and it'll all go away. But what gets to me about this is stuff like this being done to others. Perhaps that's my great flaw. In spite of being utterly disgusted with the state that this country has come to, I still care about other people living in this country. And I care when they're mistreated. Heck, I even care when people that I've never met outside of this country are mistreated, particularly when it's done in my name by my government. Maybe that's my big dilemma here. Maybe it's because I care. Maybe I should stop caring. Maybe I should just go on as if everything's normal and just say, let the world burn. It deserves it. And the truth is, if we continue down this same path, we will deserve what comes to us. Benjamin Franklin was right. Those who are willing to sacrifice liberty in the name of security deserve neither and will have neither. I will add that they deserve no security. In fact, they deserve to be in total insecurity. In the end, people do automatically get what they deserve. The question is after they've gotten it, are they going to learn from it? Susie Castillo learned, and she is all the better for it. But all of you out there posting on these videos that have been put up and making fun of her, deriding her while she's in tears, for good reason too, I might add, have you learned your lesson? I suppose not. With the schooling system we have today, I think learning your lesson is a thing of the past. It's more a question of self-esteem, and believe me, nothing is more self-gratifying and more self-esteem inducing than being felt up by a creepy man or woman in a uniform on a power trip. All I'm going to say in conclusion, if there is somebody in TSA or in Homeland Security watching this, when push comes to shove, come what may, when you say you were just doing your job, you will be with no excuse in this. This isn't an excuse. Doesn't change what you're doing. Just like with the members of the National Socialist Party that stood trial before the tribunal at the end of World War II. They used the same argument. They were just doing their jobs. They were doing their duty, serving their country. It is my hope that you will come to a similar end as them, or you will recant and you will repent and you will quit, because that's the only way that you'll clean yourselves up from this. I'm of the opinion that no honest and decent person can work for the TSA. It's impossible. I don't accept that. A person can become a good and decent person again once they've left that agency, but anybody, be it Michael Chertoff, who's not really part of the TSA but is making plenty of money off them, or any of the other subordinates spread around Homeland Security and all the other places, you guys are nothing, and you prove yourselves to be such every day, that things like what happened to Miss Castillo, continue to happen, and in even more egregious ways than in her case. Be not proud. With prudence to myself and benevolence to all of you, good evening.